Hello, you are listening to the Catalyst Show here at BCB Radio. My name is Sarai. Good evening. And I am the communications coordinator for the Racial Justice Network. I really do hope everyone is having a lovely evening. And I really do hope whoever is listening to our episode will enjoy the bank holiday. Whether you're going out with friends or family or loved ones, having a quiet night in, or if you are working, I hope you have a really well-deserved rest or meal or a drink, or if you don't want to do any of that, good sleep, a good nice lie-in. I know I love to have a nice lie-in sometimes during bank holidays. Sometimes I don't like to go out. I just stay in, watch my favorite movie, eat my favorite food, just my creature comforts, really. And I guess this is the first May bank holiday out of 3. It's crazy. We've been, I wouldn't say gifted with 3 May bank holidays, but yeah, I really hope you enjoy this weekend. And I guess, although I opened that up with saying, I hope many of you celebrate this weekend or enjoy the May bank holiday, it's also a time to reflect and understand that a lot of people, especially in this country, unfortunately won't be able to, celebrate, won't be able to have the rest, won't be able to have time off. The unprecedented times at the moment in this country, it sees quite a big divide in who can comfortably celebrate and those of us who can't. And with the cost of living crisis in the UK being skyrocketing at the moment, whether that's energy bills, food, literally everything affecting such a vast majority of people and communities. So those of us living in social and economic deprivation, marginalized communities, they'll still be affected by the cost of living crisis and institutionalized racism this weekend. It doesn't stop. And with higher cases of individuals being stopped and searched on public holidays as well, the Black community, Black people are 9 times more likely to be targeted than any other racial group during public holidays. And I think now more than ever, it is really important for us all to remember that we are not alone in this struggle. With a struggle, it takes a large group of us to unify and unite and create social justice. So I really want to acknowledge that before we go into this month's episode of the Catalyst Show. And on behalf of our network, as always, we are also showing our international solidarity to all our siblings across the globe. I would also really like to mention the RGN team and their efforts and the hard work they put in to creating awareness for people, not only in the global majority, but seeking out knowledge and skills from our siblings from the global south and amplifying their voices so people like us, like the listeners, can really understand what is going on and really see things from a wider perspective. So I guess as well, like fleeing unsafe environments. So the topic of this month's episode will be conflict, and we're discussing the current news of Sudan's conflict. We're also mentioning Comoros, which is Comoros Island, and the protesting operation in the African island of Mayotte, which actually gained a significant amount of news recently, with the operation displacing and affecting people who have sought asylum. So I'd also like to add that there may be trigger warnings, but the things I want to discuss this evening are really centered around how we can show our support and raise awareness. I think looking back at things, there has been times where I guess I haven't been as educated on other countries. I haven't realized the similarities that other countries may be going through compared to the UK, compared to the global majority. So I really, really want to dive deep, because prior to this episode, I have been reading a lot and really trying to understand and unlearn a lot of things about conflict and about civil war, and how this can affect so many different people, and how it has such a knock-on effect, not just on the country that the conflict is happening on, but the neighbouring countries, the people who come from the neighbouring countries that may not live there, who are overseas, or families, friends that we may know. So yeah, I guess the reason as to why, thanks to the Argent team who came up with the topic around conflict for this month's episode, is because it connects really closely to the work we have been doing here in Leeds and Bradford and surrounding areas in Yorkshire and the Humberside. And we've been doing, and the experiences of those of us who live in the UK and are targeted by, the quote unquote illegal migration bill, which is set to affect so many communities. And even if you're not a refugee, a migrant, somebody that's seeks asylum here in the UK, you're still affected somehow in some way, especially if you're from a diverse community, people who you call friends, who you call family, who you come across in your everyday lives may be affected by this illegal, quote unquote, illegal migration bill. So it's really, really important that we understand this and that we acknowledge this, how the draconian policies are in place to set people back and to create these awful hostile environments. So yeah, for those of you who are unaware of the illegal migration bill or want to know more about the illegal migration bill, recently our campaign group coordinator, Harris, who coordinates our Stop the Scan campaign group, wrote an article on our blog website, and just a little rundown about what the Stop the Scan campaign group does. They focus on communities who are affected by the police and by the Home Office, and they've since launching in 2018, they've launched several reports which focus on this and focus on Stop the Scan, sorry. They focus on stop and search. There's the word. They focus on stop and search, which the police use to identify criminals. But as we know, it can often be misused, and innocent people can often be stopped and searched by the police on no good reason. And this obviously affects and disproportionately affects Black and brown people, with Black and brown men being 9 times more likely to be stopped and searched compared to white counterparts, and also to be arrested. So that's just something to really think about and something to acknowledge when I mention Stop the Scan campaign group, because they have done a lot of work over the years, and a lot of it is so current and will be so current. And I hope more people, more communities can learn to understand the rights and learn to understand if you are getting stopped and searched, that you can ask questions as to why you're getting stopped and searched. They also focus on biometric data and the use of facial technology in the police. And again, this facial technology, I have done my own study of it. It does, again, disproportionately affect migrants, Black British people, Asian British people. It affects any minoritized community because the facial technology is a way of identifying people. Yet there has been, I think when I was researching, there was like a lot of like misuse and a lot of wrongfully doing arrests because of the facial technology. And the report that Stop the Scan campaign group presented outlined how biometric data is so harmful to communities. And yeah, back to the migration bill article. I guess under the new law, anyone who arrives in the UK through a so-called irregular route, such as via a small boat or lorry, will have their claim deemed inadmissible. This means the Home Office will refuse to even consider their claim for asylum. Instead, they will be detained for 28 days and deported. Now, there is a lot of biases that I also want to address. Some people listening might say, well, they should be deported if they're coming through an illegal route, you know, they're criminals. And many people fall into assuming those who are seeking asylum are refugees, are criminals who want to hurt people in the UK, torture people in the UK, do harm to people in the UK. But in factuality, many people who are seeking asylum, who are seeking refuge here in the UK, are women and children and families. And I can't imagine any of them actually wanting to flee the homeland and wanting to come to a new country where they don't know anyone, they may not know anyone, they may not speak English, and then to them be faced with racism and abuse. There needs to be a lot more compassion when we are understanding what is going on with the migration bill. There needs to be a lot of unlearning and our own personal education. Instead of allowing them, I guess, the media to present these ideologies, these racist ideologies on us, it doesn't do any good. It actually does a lot more harm, because we then see these people as non-human. We just see them as objects, and then it goes into xenophobia and other harmful related words and contexts that I don't necessarily want to go deep into, as this might be a trigger warning for people. So yeah, as I was saying, in factuality, many are women and children, and we really need to deeply take this into thought, because there are no exemptions for them. So if, for example, a woman and her children take the risk of fleeing their war-inflicted country via a boat